there's a contract between actors. It's like an exchange of gifts. The great thing about working with Tessa was that our contract was to the work and to the script, and we knew where we needed to be with these women. And luckily, I think we understood each other's characters as much as we did our own. And when you're all like hauling in that same direction, it just makes it so much easier.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Ruth Negga is an actor. She sat down with me in New York City to talk about the work. I would like to start in a weird way in the future, kind of, as a way to begin to talk about your preparation process. Can you talk about what part of the road you're on right now when you're thinking about Lady Macbeth? And what are some of the building elements that you're anticipating playing with in order to wrap your arms around her?
Well, I suppose I better read it first.
Maybe. I mean, that's debatable.
No, I'm being facetious there. I don't know yet, to be honest. I'm very much within a passing frame of mind at the moment, because I'm talking about it, because we're opening at the New York Film Festival. And so, it's an opportunity for me to speak about our film and reflect on what we've made and my contribution, because I don't think you really get the time when you're in the middle of a performance to really absorb the experience. And so I really do cherish this time to reflect on it, to for good or for bad, analyze my own performance within the film itself, and to see how it fits in to the wider film. And for me, that's super exciting, because I'm a small part of a much bigger thing. I'm so proud of this film and so grateful to Rebecca, but it's her film. My job is to provide a service, really, for her. To realize, eclair, that I have fleshed out, but is very much in keeping with her vision and in tandem with her vision. And for me, that's the beginning, is the filmmaker and the script, and finding the right tonality and timbre, and making sure you're both on the same page. That's very important. Now, that obviously leaves room for maybe difference of opinion, or sort of, a contribution from either person that perhaps you hadn't thought about, and that's why I love it. The collaboration for me is the key to unlocking the magic. But at the back of your mind, as an actor, you're always in service of the piece, and hopefully your director's vision, if you're on the same page. That's important to me. It's too hard otherwise.
So, but there must be times when there was that, when you realize you're on different pages.
No.
That's amazing.
No, but you know what? You tend to figure that out very early on. You almost figure out in the audition process. With the Loving, that happened naturally in the audition. I just felt like what I was contributing clicked into Jeff Nichols' wider scope for his film, and I felt like we were, and you just know it. It's not even a cerebral, conscious acknowledgement necessarily. It's just a very visceral, this jigsaw piece fits in with that. And with Rebecca, I didn't audition. She came to me with it. And her energy, it's very, as an actor, you know, part of your training, and whether you've trained, you know, at school or on the job, is to be awake to all of your senses and all of what all your senses are telling you and guiding you, and you know, it's your job to be engaged with them all the time. So you kind of know quickly if that is a relationship that you want to pursue and that will work, you know, and that means, you know, that's a great foundation for figuring out the tone of a piece, you know, because, you know, sometimes you have to figure out, like, what atmosphere is the piece? Like, is it a thick atmosphere? Is it a thin atmosphere? You know, is it loud? Is it silent? All these different things. And I think once you're on that sort of, if the tonality is correct, I mean, it can be an opposition, it can be a contrariness, that's okay, but as long as it serves this bigger narrative.
Yes. Do you really figure that out when you're actually on the set? Because I'm imagining that things kind of change in the energy of that space. And do you have to adapt there too? Because I mean, if you're building something and you're setting on a tone and you feel like you're on the same tone that's serving the piece, and the director's on that too, but when it gets to the set, because of the circumstances or whatever, are you able to ride that and kind of surf that and change if you have to based on that?
Well, I believe you have to. I think that should be part of your skill set, you know, because practically speaking, sometimes I think, oh, it would be great if you could control, like, have sort of a laboratory control sense in terms of a film, and, you know, because you know, oh, the conditions are good for this scene because this is happening, but, you know, and some part of you would love that, but you also know that that's sort of impossible, but also really unhelpful. You know, the whole beauty of film is the ephemeral nature of it, you know, that you're capturing something. I mean, this is what astounds me about film, is that, yes, you're capturing something that's been planned for years in advance, days, the script is written, and yet you have a certain time frame in which to capture it, where all the elements may not be working in your favor, or this, you know, and you're working with other actors who've done their own individual prep work, and to me, the joy is in the surrender. And I don't think you're kind of can do yourself justice or the piece justice if you don't sort of fling yourself off that cliff in many ways. And you know, you don't know what's going to happen, but in a way that's not up to you. It's up to all the different departments coming together, everybody in this big melee that's creating something which has the potential to be transformative, transporting, and you know, with lovely surprises, you know, and not so lovely surprises, but you know, that's the thrill of it, you know, and that's the high.
I heard you talking about this heady intoxication that you wanted to inject into Claire, because you felt it needed to be done, because that was part of what Irene was kind of attracted to, or was seeing it as you know, something that she was aspiring to, or something like that, or this, and you called it a first love, you know, like having a first love again. But I was thinking, wow, that it seemed like it would be much easier to play the person who is enveloped by that intoxicating person, rather than trying to figure out how to be intoxicating. I mean, how do you do that? By the way, you pulled it off.
Oh, thank you.
But that's one of the mysteries that I don't understand.
Well, I mean, you know, luckily it's not real life, and and you're relying on the other actors to be intoxicated by you, or at least pretend. Because that's part of our business. But well, you see, there's a contract between actors. Is that it's like an exchange of gifts. That my performances are, I find them very difficult to extricate it from other performers, because you can't. You can't act in isolation. It's ridiculous. I mean, even if people doing one-person shows, there's so much energy going on with your stage manager, with your audience, and you never do anything alone. And the great thing about working with Tessa was that our contract was to the work and to the script, and we knew where we needed to be with these women. And luckily, I think we understood each other's characters as much as we did our own. And when you're all like hauling in that same direction, it just makes it so much easier, I don't think you can. I don't know how you act intoxicating. What is that the word I used?
Yeah.
Or charismatic.
Yeah.
I think Claire has charisma, and I think you can't play charisma, but you can play. And what I played with was this idea that she was free of, I suppose, the vanity of being good, the vanity of goodness. This idea that this pride that Irene takes in being an upstanding member of her community, and being reliable, and being an excellent homemaker and mother, and she is all of those things, and she takes great pride in it. And yet she sees Claire, who I mean, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Claire forgets she has a child. It doesn't have the same weight in her life as it does for Irene, and that in many ways confuses Irene, because she thinks, oh, have I invested my worth and my value in something I'm not sure actually I believe in anymore? And so that's just an example of people like Claire, who sort of can cast a spell over people that makes them question their very being, or allows them to discover elements of themselves that they have kept hidden, or maybe didn't even know about in the first place. And that's what charismatic people do. And I'm talking in the very old sense of the word, like a leaders and such. And the way into that for me, to Claire, was to play her belief in her own desires, and they're legitimate and perfectly acceptable, and she's capable of having them and dreaming of them, not only dreaming of them, but making them a reality. And it's quite revolutionary even now.
Yes.
Let alone 100 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
For a woman of colour.
Yes.
And I think the great thing about Rebecca's film is it exposes the absurdity of the strictures of race, whatever that is, is that even though Claire is the one passing, she's actually living a fuller her. It's just very frustrating to me, and I'm sure to her and many people of the time, that in order to live fully, as she saw it, she'd have to give us something up. And for her, that was our community.
It struck me that Claire is even free in the last scene, in the last moments of the last scene.
Yes.
That really struck me.
Good.
A pet peeve I have is, in movies, is particularly American actors playing characters from a long ago time, and in particularly posh people from a long ago time, and the language doesn't feel natural. You know, the differential of the language, I'm thrown right out. I mean, enough to like not even go on sometimes. This didn't happen in this with you or with Tessa, but I want to know, with you, is this a Shakespeare training thing, or just dipping into Shakespeare like that let you wrap your arms around language of all kinds that's a little bit foreign much easier than you would have?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even limit it to Shakespeare, although yes, I love words. I love language. I love storytelling. And for me, words are freedom, because they allow you to articulate your inner world. And, you know, and I don't think I do it entirely well. I'm always searching for a better word or a better turn of phrase, but that's the joy of it, you know. And I love of language is inculcated in me since I was a kid. You know, I mean, you know, if we're talking about, you know, Irish culture, I mean, language is so important. It's prized, you know. Yeah. A way with words, a wit, you know, these things are valued, highly valued in Irish society, you know. And I cherish language. I love it. I love the history of words. I'm obsessed with etymology. And I love playing with language. And for me, I in terms of dialogue and I everything I take on an individual basis, you know. I think when you read a script, you know, I think you immediately have a response, and you can hear the voice of the character and the other characters. Sometimes it's immediate, and other times you have to read the script a few times, or you place it in a certain geographical area. But historical time is important because, you know, you want to sound authentic, but you don't want to sound staid and stuffy at the same time. But really, it depends. Again, it's in step with what the director is looking for. And so you want it to be as authentic as possible. And of course, you don't want to remove your audience from the story, which is the utmost importance. Yes. So I think it's finding a collective tone and timbre. And me and Tessa quite naturally, you know, found that together. Language to me bears witness to people's souls. And I'm, you know, and that's why, you know, plays are so important to me, you know. And Shakespeare, I mean, you will find a word, a line, a speech for every emotion you can conceive of within a human psyche, you know. With that, one feels witnessed through our human experience. We feel seen and we feel understood, and that's why we go to plays, that's why we go to the cinema, that's why we go. That's why we invented art, you know, is to try and understand ourselves and be understood by one another. And for me, language is key to that. And it's not just you know, words on a page. It's the visual language that can create, you know, the sounds, the language of the senses, really. And I think acting for me combines all of those things. So, you know, when I'm looking at a script, sometimes it's very much visually, and I can see a character, I can see the scene sometimes, you know, and it's like, oh, I can see my journey through the scene in my brain, you know, and that's lovely. So, very helpful. I don't know, I don't think there's any kind of prescribed sort of recipe for the translation of a script into performance. I think you use whatever you have available, whatever tools you have available, and whatever you're open to. It's about laying yourself bare to the process, really, and welcoming, tools that you have, but also being open to receive new ways of looking and seeing.
How does a director who's also an actor change things for you when they are at the helm?
They know all your secrets. I don't know. My love of words, and I'm at loss for words to describe that. With Rebecca, because she's obviously an actor, for me, I felt, and I'm not saying I always have to do this, but there's a trust that was immediate with her. And that doesn't always come with directors, because, they're naturally, if they're thinking, okay, I suppose you have to earn the trust. But with Rebecca, there's a natural trust from one actor to another, because we kind of didn't have to do that thing of that kind of unspoken dance of an actor trying to convince a director, about their instincts, about their choices and everything. I felt like we didn't have to play that game at all. And it's not like a game I don't enjoy. I think it's, it's necessary sometimes. It's like a mutual reassurance. Do you know what I mean? But that was already present with Rebecca, I feel. But it also means that often there's nowhere to hide. She knows all the tricks. You know what I mean? And not that I do that and everything, but I mean, I think it's interesting, because I think she sees what you're capable of, because she is capable of it. She's a tremendous actress, and she wants it. And so it's demanded of you. And I think that means that, I always do try to plumb the depths of a role and a part, but it means that there's an extra investment there. She has a, what's it called when you have a shorthand, yes, for getting you there, for encouraging you, for reassurance. Also, I feel like we could do away with niceties. Do you know what I mean by that? It's like, I understand when she's a very direct direction. I'm very happy about that. She knows she doesn't need to plumose me or... I feel like sometimes directors can be a bit scared of being direct because of our apparently fragile egos. But actors are hardy people. We have to be. Obviously you don't tolerate rudeness, but there's a directness that can be handy for both. And I felt that we all availed of that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so there's like a sort of a comfort level that allows you to really explore sort of maybe unknown, dangerous, scary territory. Because, it's quite intimidating to play someone with, like Claire, who is fearless, utterly charismatic, utterly herself, and also dangerous in the fact that anything unexpected could come out of her mouth. You don't know, any sudden move could be made, and to kind of invest a character with that kind of power is quite scary. And requires a certain fearlessness as a performer, I think. And I felt very held by Rebecca in that journey, and indeed by Tessa, because we talk a lot about how these are two individual women, but sort of not separate entities. They're sort of, I feel like when they look at one another, from their first meeting, it's like they found a missing piece.
Yes, I felt that.
And it's, in a way, it's a sort of, it's a covetousness. You know, they see in one another what they feel they lack or they want. But there's also a tenderness and a love and a fury by what they inspire in one another. And to me, that is relationships, it's friendships between women that we don't often see, and we're not, those spaces that we're really not allowed to inhabit, or it's frightening to go there because, you know, it's very much about support and sisterhood. Well, it's also a lot more complex than that, you know. And there's a lot of ambiguity in our film in all areas, and I really cherish the ambiguous nature of friendship and love and desire in this film. And it's beautiful to play because, you know, actors love ambiguity. We do. I think we naturally resist tidiness because it's essentially untruthful. It's not genuine.
Do you sometimes wish that if a director understood energy more and how much actors feed off energy, particularly how much you are affected by energy, that if they really understood that something even greater than you can even imagine can come out of you?
I think they do, though.
They do?
Well, I've worked with many who do. I really do. I mean, I feel blessed and lucky to have worked with Rebecca Hall, Yael Farber, who is extraordinary. She directed Hamlet. And Jeff, you know, these are people who I've found tremendous kinship with because of their belief and their trust. It's trust that is the key. It's trust that is the key, I think.
Ruth Negga, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity to gas on.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.